Welcome back to Good Day Extra. It is the story that has stirred controversy and sparked intense reaction from the North Georgia community. Catherine Ariemma is a Lumpkin County teacher who allowed her students to wear KKK robes as part of a history lesson, and she joins us this morning as she awaits the decision of the school board on her future. And we were just talking, and you said you didn't even have any idea that the school board was meeting to discuss this situation.
No, not until it was aired in the news last night.
Okay, let's just go back and just start with the project in itself. You know, what was the goal that you had hoped to achieve with this project?
Well, this is the third year that my students have done this project. This is a course in U.S. in Film, which is coupled with AP U.S. History. And my students begin the project actually right before the AP exams. They brainstorm topics and they pick the top 3 topics. And this year one of the topics was racism throughout U.S. history. And then after the AP exams, they start in earnest on working on the films.
Okay.
And to set the record straight, they weren't KKK robes, they were sheets. And underneath was a SpongeBob party hat.
But the perception was to be represented.
Yes, absolutely. But I don't want people thinking, I wouldn't even know where to get those robes except in a museum.
So was there any type of pre-approval process? Did they have to come to you and say, Miss Ariemma, this is what I want to work on, is it okay?
Yes. And I don't know how you can discuss racism and not discuss the Klan. Mm-hmm. By not discussing it, then we would be condoning it. That's one of the things that in my class I tell my students, we're going to discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly in U.S. history. We have a vast and interesting history. Much of it is wonderful, but we are flawed, and I don't cover that up. And one of the things that my students learn in class is that we have racism, and it started with the first colonists coming to the New World with the Native Americans, and progressed on with lots of different ethnic groups and racial groups. So we cover it all.
And I would agree with you. You can't brush the ugly history of America under the rug.
No.
But when you come to school in the morning and you see it walking down the hallway, that's something totally different. And I believe that's where the shock factor came in.
And absolutely. And it was not my intention, and it certainly wasn't the intention of my students either. When they came to class that day with their sheets and got their costuming ready and cut out the eye holes, and we had difficulty keeping the hats on correctly because they were made for little heads and they had big heads. And I said to them, where are we headed? Where are you going? And they explained they needed to go to the other side of the building. And I said, well, I don't want you walking through the halls by yourselves. I don't want anyone getting the wrong idea. And none of us thought about it being lunch. We have 3 different lunch tracks, and in between those lunch tracks, there's no one in the cafeteria. We didn't think about that. We have first lunch. In hindsight, probably should have just said, don't film this at school at all. Mm-hmm. But I have to tell you, we have a school population that is like a big family. We're not a very big school. And I felt that if student bodies saw the students with me, they would know that this was obviously a school project. They walked quickly through the cafeteria. They didn't talk to anyone. They had filming on their mind. You know, they had an agenda for the day, and that was to get this scene filmed because they were under a deadline. And they exited the building and had no idea. The students had no idea. I had no idea that anyone was upset until I came back into the cafeteria. And a teacher came to me and said, we have a couple of students who are upset. And immediately I said, well, take me to them. Let me explain what's going on. Unfortunately, the bell rang to disperse the students to go to class. And I didn't know who they were. And the teacher, I don't know that the teacher knew who they were. I did check with the principal later in the day and said, you know, are we okay? I need to talk to these students. And he said, no, we've talked to the kids. The parents have been calling. I've explained the project, the theme of the project, and we're all right.
But then it went outside the school walls.
Yes.
And then now the community's involved. Now the school board's involved.
Yes.
What would you hope for the school board, for the community to come from this?
You know, I have given that a lot of thought. And I did say to the superintendent yesterday, I said, I would hope we could get some kind of teachable moment out of this. As educators, we look for that opportunity. This is not something I premeditated. But can we talk about it? Can we discuss? You know, this comes from the feelings of racism that students have experienced. And that's exactly what I was trying to teach about. So I would hope as a community that we can realize, I teach my students that you don't have to be in white robes to be racist. There's very subtle ways. Our laws and immigration quotas, etc., prove it. And they use primary sources to uncover this. It's not just me telling them. They look at the primary sources. So I would hope that we could talk about it.
Do you worry about your future as a teacher? Are you worried right now?
I'm not worried. I'm more worried about the students. This is graduation week. I hate the fact that this is overshadowing. We have students who are the first generation to graduate from high school. I don't want this to mar that moment for them. Some of them I have taught. And so I think more than anything, that's what I'm concerned about, is that this is going to take away something from them.
But that aside, again, are you worried about your future as a teacher?
No. I am a good teacher. I do my best. I try to engage my students every day. I try to enlighten them. I speak the truth. I tell the truth. And that's all I can do. And I suppose if someone decides that this is the end, it's the end. But I take responsibility for what I did. But the project itself, it's a good project.
Thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank you.
We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll be back after this.